Hi, welcome to Talk About the Passion. I'm your host, Christian Campagna, and tonight we're going to be talking about the record Axe to Fall by Converge. It's released in 2009, and ever since I started doing these episodes on specific of like my favorite records that I have in my collection, this one was on the list. The list, it was high up. I don't know why I'm like stuttering there. I was so excited to add it. But it's been on there for a long time. And I've done about, I don't know, a dozen of these or so at this point. On most days, this is my favorite Converge record. I feel like this was a reinvention of their sound after Jane Doe, You Fail Me, and No Heroes. And it's just like, it's a different record. And so anyway, when I do talk about records on this podcast, and this is also a brown one. I have two of these. I have another one above those Black Sabbath box sets they're waiting to give to a friend. Because another friend gifted an extra. So I'm going to gift it to them. This whole hippie thing. You get one. But this is my copy. I want the brown one. But this, when I talk about records on this specific channel for this little segment, I usually try to do ones that aren't people's favorites. Like I did one on the second TYS album. And I'll fight people for that record. And this was the only mug I had clean. I swear. So all of these, episodes, like I said, were records. I don't really do deep dives. For this record, I had a number of ideas of ways I wanted to approach it, because it came out in 2009, so there's a lot of different times it's been in my life. And then I got stage 4 metastatic prostate cancer, and I just stopped thinking about doing this kind of stuff. Well, I lost what ideas I had for this record. I kept putting these videos out throughout that situation. But, the day the minute you hear the word, anyone out there, the minute you hear that word cancer, everything after that is a completely different, whatever they say you don't really hear. And your priorities change immediately. Stuff that you once got pissed off, you just don't give a fuck about at this point. In a weird way, it was a very liberating thing for me. It's hard to explain. Because it also had this level of uncertainty, this intense level of uncertainty. That was there for a long time at the beginning. But the way these doctors were, they were very positive, and I never felt, I never left there hysterically crying or anything like that. I always felt I was in good hands. And so far, so good. So on January 24th of 2026, I had every intention of working on this episode finally. I had been, so that diagnosis was in September of 2025. And I started hormone therapy shortly after that, which really helped a lot. And then chemotherapy right after that. And so this particular weekend, we were scheduled to get around 2 feet of snow in January. And so I'd have this whole fucking weekend to work on it. And then, it didn't really happen. I didn't get the right food. And like I said, going back, I forgot I wrote this down. I was diagnosed just on the 15th of 2025. They did that hormone therapy. The chemotherapy, that's done. We did a little radiation, and now this coming week, we're going to do 28 days in a row of radiation, and then go to work, like, right after. So these chemotherapy sessions were always on Wednesdays, and the very first one I had, they give you a steroid to take the day before. I swear to God, we're going to get to this Converge record. Steroids. But they make you take a steroid the day of, and the day after, and the day before. I didn't really understand what it was for. And each of these Wednesdays, I took the following Thursday and Friday off work. So after the first one, I felt great when I woke up. I'm like, oh, chemo. I thought like you were going to feel like I have a port right here in my chest, and that's where they put the stuff in. It's still there. And I thought you would literally feel like poison coursing through your veins, and you'd be in this dark room with other, just people just like, in there, just like a fucking Chris Nolan movie or so. I don't know. But it wasn't like that at all. And but I woke up feeling great, so I did stuff. And then that Friday I went to work and lifted a bunch of 40-pound boxes. And then that Saturday after the first one, I woke up and felt like I was hit by a train. After that, I learned to not overexert myself. I still worked through all this shit, and and just I always tried to work my appointments around, not missing work, because I'm a fucking company man. That's me, right? And so this particular Saturday, that snow day, I didn't prepare for the storm because I didn't get the food that I needed. And that was another thing. Chemotherapy would make it so food tasted really bad. And so I was eating protein bars, protein drinks, protein powder. And one of the other things it did, it would make me unable to enjoy film, TV, reading, any of the things I loved. Being creative. Some friends sent me some puzzle books that were actually pretty good for you, because you get what they literally call chemo brain, where you get like really foggy. A lot of times you do this a lot because you can't remember a word, like the word like chicken soup or something. So that was tough. So music was another one, and the only stuff I could really listen to was Brian Eno and Harold Budd and Keith Jarrett, and like quiet piano stuff. A lot of abrasive music. I couldn't do. And then it was also just the noise in the world in January of 2026. Especially this particular day, if you remember, a young man named Alex Preddy was shot and killed by ICE. And that was videotaped, and we all saw that. And it was a thing I only watched twice. And then I went on social media. And social media was just people arguing about that. And then I just realized, like, I don't think I can. Everyone here is in New England right now. All my friends, I think I even tried to get like a music discussion going, but people were very like, how can you, ignore this? And they're, so I got off there. I was like, I'm gonna fucking listen to the Converge record that I was gonna write about. And that's what I fucking did. I played the record all the way through, and the cat was fine with it. The cat seems to be okay with Converge. Not a fan of the Jesus Lizard, I learned recently, but Converge, he liked the new Terror album. It was pretty good. Good for him. Jesus Lizard, not a fan. So I listened to the record, and it reminded me of, while all this depressing shit is happening, I'm in fucking, in pain. I don't know how long I'm gonna live at this, still. And, but this record brought back all those memories. Good ones, and some pretty fucking terrible ones. And, right after this record came out, I was living back in Los Angeles, California, which is west of where we are now in Massachusetts, making some pretty, stupid choices. And I was in an unhealthy relationship at the time. This record, though, helped me through that. People say that, hey, man, your record really helped me through it. Hey, Converge, your record really helped me through that. So I wrote all of this, what I just been talking about, or just sort of like an outline of that, in June. And that's all I came up with. And then I was like, I don't know what else to find. I still don't know how to even approach this record, and I still haven't fucking talked about it. I don't even know how long I've been talking so far. I apologize. maybe long. I don't know. But I've played this record as well as the two new records a lot this past week because I'm currently having some heavy relationship issues. And it's reignited my interest in finishing this thing now. It's been a perfect soundtrack to just how it was in fucking 2009, right after it came out. And it's kind of a weird thing to say. But looking back at what I wrote about chemotherapy and just trying to deal with those days, writing and thinking and just having the literal pain in your legs and arms a lot of the times, and just not being able to get the energy to cut up a fucking cucumber. And just, like, what's my fucking life expectancy here? I would take that whole fucking dark section of this fucking last winter over this last week of heartache that I've been dealing with. And that's not really something we talk about on this podcast much, but the reality is, and the reason it makes sense is because Converge, especially since Jane Doe, have had a way of explaining and fucking picking apart and throwing in your fucking face and contemplating and just overall making you feel heartache, whether you fucking want to or not. Through so many songs, the lyrics, the melodies, people, talk about lyrics a lot, but, melodies, cut into your fucking soul and heart a lot. And, that's like an underrated, when you get one of those good, like, hooks, like a sad hook in a song, like that, speaking of Harold Budd, if you know that, that little 3-note piano thing that starts the Cocteau Twins Harold Budd album. I think the song's called Sea Swallow Me. That's one of those melodies that the second you hear that, you just want to. But Converge, they're either going to hit you over the head with heartache, or they're going to lull you into just like this world. And that's what happens on the last two songs of this record. Wretched World brings me to this like wonderful and just dark place. And I remember the first time I heard this song, because I had bought this record, because I think it came out in the fall of 2009, and we were traveling the coast we were in the Central Coast, and I left the hotel room because I wasn't feeling the situation that was happening in there, conversation-wise, and took a ride. We were in a place called, one of my favorite places still, San Luis Obispo, California, little college town. But I took a drive, and I was on a road. It's called Tank Farm Road. And the reason it's called that is because there used to be all these oil tanks there back in the 1900s. And I think at one point they were on fire for many years. But that road is still there, and some of that land is still there. But I pulled over and I listened to that song twice. And when I look at the lyrics now, they described like exactly what I was feeling that night. And that melody in that song did the same thing. And I didn't really know the special guests on that record, which are the guys from Genghis Tron, whose new record I love. That's going to be in my I have it over there. One of my favorite records of this year. See, that chemo's still in there. But I didn't know anything about this band and I still don't, like a lot of times when there's guests on records, a lot of times I can't really tell, like this one I wasn't familiar with these guys, so I don't really know. Obviously the next one has Steve Von Till, and you know what the fuck Steve Von Till sounds like. So yeah, but this song, it's just, for the last few days, it was just it felt like a description of my last few days here too. And it was tough because it became it's one of those things where it became a favorite song, but it didn't have a good memory attached to it. And that's what always makes records, so like tough to me is you sometimes, you need to revisit that wound and, reopen it and just, open that window again. It pretty much did that for me today, hearing that. It opened that window of, I guess I'm talking in all over the fucking place here, but what I mean is this opened a different window. It opened a window of opportunity for me to write about this because I was like, oh, I think I know how I'm feeling now about this record because it's back in my fucking life and it's kind of helping this situation I'm in right now. We'll see how that well works out. But this is, if I can't get something to, just make my soul completely fucking shiver when I hear it years later, that's not the song, at least as far as trying to attach it to like a good memory, You're not going to attach a fucking Stick song, like some meaningless, thing to, or whatever, like No Bone Movies by Ozzy. That's not going to be the one. But it's a good song. But this is one of those songs, and it closes the record. It's a fucking great song. But while we're not going in any fucking order whatsoever with this record, the song before it is the Steve Von Till song. It's called Cruel Bloom. And I would love an entire fucking record of the music that's created in this piano-based like creeper that gets really heavy. And it's got one of my favorite lines in this, which, makes a lot of sense right now. And it's that trying to find beauty in flesh torn from me. And, having to deal with, this health shit and just having this mental thing, a couple of weeks ago, and that's segueing into this, relationship stuff. It's just, there's been a lot of flesh ripped off of me. And so trying to find beauty in that it is sometimes tough. But having Steve Von Till speak to you kind of helps. I mean, if there's a guy you'd ever want to help your soul with music, there you go. That song does it. The opener on this record, Dark Horse, I think that was a song that you used to open a lot of the sets. That's like a very triumphant, and this is like a rad, fast Converge song. Perfect like opener song. And then, the other thing I wanted to bring up is, Converge they are a hardcore band, okay? Sure, they don't sound like fucking Agnostic Front or Bad Brains. Sorry, guys. I know you kind of wanted to sound like AF on that one record. I'm just kidding. But hey, Madball doesn't sound like Minor Threat, and Minor Threat doesn't sound like High Viz. And those are all hardcore bands. I think when you come from this world, you're a fucking hardcore band. And the beauty of that is how these bands have expanded, like through just, even when we started listening to all this stuff, wherever you started, hopefully, whenever you did, you discovered that that's what it was like. It wasn't just all this. It wasn't just, Biohazard, Hate, it was, wow, there's this Swizz, and then this world, and then there's, what the hell's Ignition, and then, who are into another, and just Iceburn, and Lifetime. There's just so many places you can go with this stuff, and that's what makes it great. And Converge always does what they want. But on the other hand, if you did want to show someone that Converge can still, play a fucking straight up hardcore song, Wishing Well on this record is one of those. It's just like, that's a fucking hardcore song right there. Boom. How you doing? And then, this record being my favorite, I think it's because it's like a weird record. There's a lot of guests all over it, like I said. It's got one of the best, like, grimy dirge songs on there that Worms Will Feed, Rats Will Feast, which is a song about, we all know those kind of people. They've always been around, like, those vampires that hang around, friend circles or the scene. So we all know these pieces of garbage. And this is a song about those people. And then, Axe to Fall is probably my favorite of the fast ones on here. And the message at the end here is something I clearly need to learn. I need to learn to love me. Hey. It's tough to even think about that when you're underneath it all. But, I'm getting there with these, cancer treatments. And, those have all been seriously positive so far. And the fog that was in the brain lifts. I do start to learn to just like myself more than, because I think that was, when I said earlier, like, it was this freeing thing. That was one of the things. And again, like I said, these episodes aren't meant to be deep dives on these records. So I apologize if you came here wanting to hear this whole thing on Converge and there's some fucking old guy in a Drop Dead shirt talking about fucking cancer for however long this has been. I apologize. There's plenty of great videos on Converge, but maybe you like this. So if you do, stick along. We're gonna be doing more of these. And I do want to talk about their 2 new records. So I'm going to be, I think in a couple of days, depending on just how my life goes here, I want to work on this episode on my favorite records of 2026 so far. I wanted to do that earlier, sort of at the half point of the year, but I did not get the Neurosis record or Hum of Hurt until recently. So I wanted to make sure to get those in there. Because those certainly need to be on there, obviously. But I want to thank Converge for this record, because Axe to Fall. Because so much of this type of music hits people in different ways at different times. And, while it's mostly helped me, it's also reopened things I've just never wanted to fucking feel again. Like just shitty fucking feelings. That I never wanted to feel again. And that's, what this fucking record has done in the last week. But what fun would fucking music be if you didn't feel it?